Hello, everyone. This is Cody Lee of BlackCatBooks.org, author of I, the Dragon, Cruel and Beautiful Rabbit Hole, King Dale, Lauren Frey, and the upcoming Jaw of the Dragon. And I really like Nintendo Switch Sports. I've put a little bit of time into it already. I really liked basically all of the sports except for bowling, which I don't even really like in real life, so it's not really that big of a deal. I really liked what I've experienced from Nintendo Switch Sports so far, but the overwhelming narrative I've heard from the Pretendos, the people on Twitter who have seem to have revolved their entire lives around hating Nintendo, is that Nintendo Switch Sports is a disappointment and is inferior to Wii Sports Resort in every single way. That's the narrative I've seen, and um, I'm curious just how many YouTubers are trying to capitalize on that very early, very knee-jerk reaction, pre-release reaction. So I saw this video from a ChiGuy who I cannot stand, and I thought that yeah, let's do a reaction to his nonsense views.
Nintendo sports games have quite the legacy. If it wasn't for the original Wii Sports, the Wii very well may not have done as well as it did. That
Bullshit. Are you serious? What a hyperbolic statement. Oh man, if Wii Sports didn't exist, the Wii wouldn't have succeeded. The Wii Sports was designed with the Wii in mind. Like it's without the Wii, you wouldn't have had Wii Sports. Like saying that they would have been developed independently of one another is just ridiculous. Like they are fundamentally part of the same experience.
that was the thing that sold people on it. Many only got the system for that game. Like they didn't even buy anything else. The Wii was just their Wii Sports machine.
Plenty of people bought like follow-up games like Carnival games and Wii Sports Resort. Those kind of people did Mario Kart Wii. There were titles that people who only bought a Wii for Wii Sports did eventually pick up. There was a lot of overlap with other titles. To suggest that Wii Sports is the only game on the Wii, like literally the only game, is just is just um is just wrong.
And then Wii Sports Resort was pretty much the epitome of these games. Added a ton more sports, had the whole island deal, a
Cut
bevy
out
of cool modes
some others.
within these different activities. It was easily one of the best Wii games in terms of the motion control implementation. Myself, I've mentioned it on this channel in the past. I'm not a fan of motion controls. I hated them in many of the marquee Wii games. I thought it made a lot of the games feel extra dated. Something like
Yeah, this is the kind of person criticizing Nintendo Switch Sports. The sort of person who hates motion controls and thinks they make games worse. That's the person criticizing Nintendo Switch Sports, right? A successor to an IP that defined itself on motion controls 15 years ago, right? Like this is a legacy franchise at this point, and the fact that he's trying to downplay the success of motion controls, in games like Red Steel 2, in Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, uh, stuff like that, is downright laughable. That is pathetic. It's not true now on Nintendo Switch, and it wasn't true then on Nintendo Wii.
Skyward Sword, wiggling my hand around. Oh, don't you feel more immersed? Don't you feel like Link now? No, I feel like an asshole. But when it came to the fun, more party nature of Wii Sports, Wii Sports Resort, it fit. And then after Wii Sports Resort, we got Wii Sports Club. Well, okay, they can't all be winners, right? Now we have the newest installment on the Nintendo Switch that recently released, aptly titled Nintendo Switch Sports. And yeah, to start off, we're not going back to the Wii Sports Resort levels. I can tell you that right now. This game is quite lackluster in my opinion, even for a $40 title. I've noticed that's like the main defense for it. Oh, well, it's only 40 bucks. Well, we're comparing it to games that are a decade and a half.
Wii Sports Wii Sports Resort launched at I believe $50 with a pack and controller. Wii Sports originally, I believe in Japan, like released at a discounted price, and it was a pack-in title. So like, it seems in North America, it seems like this guy is reaching to complain about whatever. It's just
Fold, one of which was a Pekin game. And I don't think, in terms of the content, this game holds up at all in 2022. The disappointment with this game begins pretty much immediately, as you have to create your character before you start. These new models have nothing on the charm of the Mii's. They come off as generic, like great.
playing as me's is an option. They come off as generic. I really like the character models though. I actually am playing as a switcher. I don't know what we're calling these things. They're not me's, but like saying that, oh man, they have to use me's forever. Like what sense does that make? Do you not like any? It just means that you don't like any kind of change. Like, can you not appreciate the aesthetics? Can you not appreciate like the more versatile like character customization, the ability to unlock new gear and things like that? Like, is that not important to you? Like, is that not something you care for? Like, I really appreciate those features, and a lot of people I'm sure are really into them.
Value Splatoon characters. Now, you can import a Mii head into the game and put it on these bodies, but they look so weird. Like, the heads of the Mii certainly don't fit on these bodies. It just doesn't work, and I wouldn't mind this as much if you had a ton of customization options, but you have, like, next to nothing at the start in terms of ways to decorate, customize your.
Yeah. At the start, as I mentioned, you unlock more customization options as you go along and keep playing. It's nothing to complain about.
Character. You see, this game is heavily focused towards online play. And by playing online, you can unlock more customization options. You unlock stuff pretty regularly, but it's got an awful unlock system. You select like a group of unlocks, and you get one item from that group at random. And it looks like the groups will change regularly. Like it lists on there, oh, it's got 10 days or whatever until these items change. So, you can't just go in there and get like the clothes, hair, and that you want, which is always so much fun. Instead of being able to get that hairstyle that's just like yours, wouldn't you rather just have a random chance of having it and try to grind for it for 100 days or whatever? Isn't that just so fun? No, it's
You're playing the. He's complaining about having to play the game. Like that's how you unlock these points, right? How you get points is by like playing games. You get more points by winning and things like that. Like you'll unlock these things naturally as you play through Nintendo Switch Sports. I myself like probably won't ever like customize my character. It's not something I'm really interested in. But I still like unlock things just because like yeah, they're there. We might as well just unlock this because it's a thing I can unlock. So I what what even is there to complain? This what kind of complaint is this? Like again, we're 3 minutes in now, and he somehow hasn't talked about the gameplay at all. Which I can tell you from experience with my live stream that I did a week ago was the motion controls are fluid. They work really well. Chambara feels like an extension of Wii Sports Resort Swordplay, my favorite Wii Sport ever. Right? You have a lot of cool features. You have a lot of it feels like a more well-rounded version of Wii Sports. Like it feels like there's more strategy to almost every sport except for bowling. Soccer is great. Like I've just been having a great time with this, and to see him like disparage it in this way is just ridiculous to me.
stupid. Then, once you have your character created, you can start doing some sports. To start, you've got a grand total of 6 sports in
More
this
than the
game.
original Wii Sports, and the original Wii Sports had five. Wii Sports Resort had 12, but a lot of those sports weren't very good. You had shit like the Wave Race one, and uh, they don't have the same kind of depth that the average sport in this game has. That's my take on it. Is that like there's a lot of skill to Shambara, there's a lot of skill to tennis, to badminton, to soccer, to everything except maybe for bowling, and I already I think felt more a connection to this game than Wii Sports Resort in that regard because like I would much rather have like a game where I play every sport than what ended up happening with Wii Sports Resort, where like I end up playing like 5 or 6 of them and then just kind of ignore the others. Like I never played bowling at all in Wii Sports Resort. Um, Air Sports isn't as good as it could have been. Like um, there are lots of things with Wii Sports Resort that could have been better. And again, that's kind of my takeaway with most of these sports games in general is that like yeah they can always be better, right? They can always have more sports. There's like all kinds of crazy niche things they can do. But right now, what I want to see from the IP and what like Nintendo Switch Sports delivered on is improved motion controls and online play, which is very very well handled, very very into it, and I just don't see I don't see any reason to complain about the amount of sports in the game. You know what I mean? Because they're all really, really good. Bowling, the worst sport in the game, is about the same as it ever was. So, I mean,
Game. And zero islands for my resort buds. Levels of islands are very low. And remember, these are incredibly simple games. If somehow you're not familiar with these,
is this motherfucker really implying that Wii Sports wasn't always designed to be as simple as fucking possible, to be accessible to literally fucking anyone? Like, does this guy clearly never experienced Wii Sports in its peak? This motherfucker does not understand the appeal. He doesn't respect it. And as a result, why would you ever take him seriously?
Nintendo sports games, it's not like these are six fully fleshed out sports games or something, just to be clear. And three of these games are volleyball, badminton, and tennis. Man, why didn't
All
they
of
just take out another game and add ping pong? Then they could have had
they all play radically differently from one another. Like who the fuck thinks volleyball and tennis are in any way the same sport? Like there are way different rules. Just like I played tennis. I know that like oof, maybe to a layman, like they would seem somewhat similar, but they're really not. Like in tennis, you can't hit the ball on the same side of the court like more than once. Like things like that. Like volleyball is kind of designed around that aspect. They're radically different sports games, in spite of what he's saying.
over half this game being mini games about hitting a thing over the net. Now, I'm not trying to say all of these games are exactly the same, but damn, are they close.
No,
Again,
they're
they
not.
all revolve around hitting something over a net back and forth. So that's half your games right there. If it was me, the tennis is the one I'd keep. Sorry to my badminton aficionados. The others, honestly, they just feel like tennis to me, but not as good. Particularly the volleyball. I find so annoying with how you have to always bump set spike. So it feels like there's this lull while you're waiting for the spike to happen. Like, okay, he's going to bump it. I'm going to set it. Oh, okay, all right. Now the game is happening. We're going to spike it. They're going to try to block it. We'll see what happens. Oh, okay, we got it over. Now they're going to bump it. They're going to set it. Okay, now they're going to spike it. The game's happening again. So boring. Again, if you're only going to have
Okay, I what? What a fucking spurg! Like you can see, there's such a weird dissonance between like what he says is happening and what you see on the screen, right? Because in volleyball, the way it works is that you have to bump up the ball. Your partner has to spike it, and the guys on the other side of the net have to block it, or they have to like bump it back so you can they can recover it and like spike it again. Like there's a process to it. But the thing is, it's very unlike most other sports. It's very very particular about timing, right? Depending on when you hit the ball, it the results are like wildly different. It plays it's really interesting what they did with this here, depending on the ball. Like you can get like a really sharp hit onto it, or you can like or if you like hit it a little bit early, like the ball doesn't like you could fuck up the entire thing if you get the timing wrong. Exactly. And like him trying to like downplay this as being boring is like laughable. Like when I streamed this, I had like a really good, I would say the best match I ever had in any of the sports was like in volleyball, when like I didn't quite understand how the timing worked yet, and I was going up against more experienced players, and we had this like really great back and forth where like we were trying to outdo each other, and there was a lot of strategy involved. Like this kind of complaint seems to be coming from someone who doesn't understand how the game works fundamentally. Like, I would assume he probably only played the game once and is just bitching about it. But I mean, I can't prove that, but that's the impression I get. Right? Volleyball, like complaining about volleyball of all things, like I just no.
6 slots? There isn't room for crap like this. It feels lazy. Once more, 2 of these should have been removed to make way for stuff like boxing and golf.
What a fucking spurg! For one thing, we're getting golf. That's been confirmed. Like updates, and I'm sure we're gonna get new sports further along the line. Like that's the implication I've gotten from like I got from when they confirmed golf is coming later. Second of all, slots. Like we're really going to roster fag for Nintendo Switch Sports now. The way that people like bitched about like um clone characters taking a spot in Smash, like it doesn't make any sense. Like anyone who understands how these games are developed, and like no, there's it doesn't. It's not lazy what they've done here. The games, the sports are different. They are distinct from one another, and if you don't appreciate that, that's entirely on you, right?
The other 3 sports, I'll say, I think are pretty good. I really like the soccer. You have full control over your character. You can freely move around the soccer field. A lot of the games in this, you don't have like full control over your character. But this one you do. It's 4v4, kind of got a Rocket League sort of vibe. And I'm not just saying that because Rocket League is soccer with cars, okay? But you've got the big ball, and it's not super easy to be accurate to like pass it to other players. You can dribble the ball, like just keep kicking it forward pretty effectively, but in terms of kicking it a far distance,
There's a pass button, by the way. Did he not know about the?
you can only like
Okay, whatever.
smash it
You can
in a
see it on the screen
direction,
here.
left, right,
CR.
or straight, also high or low. So there's a good amount of madness going on here because the ball's just flying all over the place. But I like that one. You've got the sword fighting Chambara.
Cat boy.
This,
Oh
you're pretty
no.
much just trying to hit
Fuentes
your
is
opponent
jacking
off the
off right now.
platform. You can hit and block, so you're trying to, block your opponent's strikes and hit them where they're open. You have a couple of different sword options. There's a charge sword. You can dual wield swords and do like crazy flips. And while this one, out of the ones I like, is probably at the lower end, I still think it's fun playing this one, again, particularly online against people. Then, of course, you got the Wii Sports GOAT, bowling. If you're a man of culture, you already know. You can never go wrong with this game's inclusion, and in terms of this online focus, I think the Battle Royale they have in here is the best by far of these online modes. Basically, you're up against 16 other players, and every 3 frames, I think it is, a group with the lowest scores is eliminated until you get to the end and, the winner is crowned. It's not only fun doing bowling multiplayer this way, having the eliminations and that make it kind of intense, but it's also efficient because everyone is going at the same time. You just have to wait for every player to bowl their frame to move on to the next one. Because, it'd be really annoying if, like, the multiplayer just put you in, say, a 4-man group and you had to watch 3 people bowl their frames before you could do yours or something like that. So I think this is the perfect way to do it. This is the online feature in this game, in my opinion. And all these modes, I will say, work well online. I had very few issues in terms of lagging or disconnecting. I think it helps a lot that the controls are so simple and that they're motion based, so I think you inherently kind of give the game some leeway when things feel off. I will say the Joy-Cons are definitely not as nice feeling to do this stuff with, hold my hand and wave around. Not as nice as the Wiimote and Nunchuck. I mean, those were actually made for human-sized hands instead of gnome ones like the Joy-Cons. But yeah, the functionality of everything is solid. The problem is, again, there are so few actual sports, but beyond that, there's so little in terms of
Actual
fun modes
sports?
for offline play. I mean, if you go back, again, to like Resort with the sword fighting, you had the stuff where you actually fought like waves of enemies, cutting the food kind of like Fruit Ninja, the 100-pin bowling. I mean, there was so much cool stuff back in the day, and now we got this new game, and it's like there's next to nothing.
I can tell you from experience that a lot of people I knew, including myself, they tended to play the games that they really liked and avoided the others. So I think even if you add stuff like swordplay, um, I I never beat Speed Slice. I never beat the champion for that. I was doing it on stream a while ago when I was playing Wii Sports Resort. Never did that. Showdown, I don't think I beat every stage. Bowling, I don't think I ever even played. Right? Like those features exist, right? But a lot of people did not play them. Like there are a lot of archery stuff I've never done. Uh like not every sport in Wii Sports Resort was a winner. In other words, and I think that by cutting it down and like focusing it on online play, that was a very good way to to get people to understand just how competitive these sports can actually be when you're playing against people who actually know what they're doing.
Really, it's just the bowling. You have the special mode with the obstacles and stuff like that. At least that's in here. But beyond that, I mean, you've got the shootout in soccer where you can attach the Joy-Con to your leg and actually kick. A one and done for me. I don't think people are even going to want to really like fiddle with the leg strap to play a round of that. And don't forget, unless you've got the leg strap from like Ring Fit Adventure or something, you got to buy the physical version of this game that comes with the leg strap, which that version costs $50. So you could argue that this mode is basically $10 DLC. Again, the main focus of this game really is
Oh, you
competitive
can't, but
online
okay,
play.
whatever.
That's the main highlighted mode when you boot up the game. There's also even like a pro league level like ranking system. Once you've played a game a fair amount, you'll unlock that and you can actually like rank up in that sport. But I just don't find that very enticing. I don't know how many people are really going to want to go hardcore and get the highest ranking in Nintendo
Bro, I totally 100% will. Fuck you. I am gonna do it.
Switch Sports. Also, don't forget, actually, you can't even unlock the cosmetics in that from playing the game offline. I mean, they really want you playing online. And I definitely worry about how active this game is going to be down the line. Getting in a game for any of these sports is super easy right now, obviously, because it just came out. But what's the state of the online community going to be like in a few months? A year from now? Are
If ARMS was any indication, there's going to be plenty of people still playing until people did this back when ARMS first came out too. Like, oh man, ARMS is a failure. Who was ever going to play this? Plenty of people did. I still do. Like it's such a weird complaint. Like bitching about the online servers in a game that is clearly popular and is clearly going to have an enduring audience. Like it's just bizarre to me. Like just look at Splatoon 1. Like shit, that's still online. Like fuck.
people really going to be regularly playing this still? I'd much rather have the fun modes from like resorts that support less players. And again, there was just so much more content in that game. It's insane to me how bare bones this 2022 game feels in comparison to that Wii game. Like, it's wild. And I'm not trying to say what's here isn't fun. Some of it I do feel like I said with the volleyball, tennis, and badminton, like some of it's unnecessary. But again, you do have some fun stuff in here, and it's functional. It all works well. The online is solid, but it's just not enough. I can already feel myself just after playing the game a few days getting bored of playing the same simple mini games over and over.
Mini games? What a dork. Play something else. Okay, you motherfucker. Do something else for a bit and then come back to it. Like shit, it's a party game. Like it's not meant to be like Breath of the Wild. Like come on, it's not like hardcore. Like fuck off.
Like, I've already had enough of most of this game. Now, here's the thing. These games that feel light on content are not new for Nintendo, specifically in the Switch era. We've seen games, sports games like Aces, get content added after release, and I think this game is a great candidate for that. Like, it's so easy. It's all right there. You know, like I said, adding some more sports, some more fun modes to those sports, and that could really elevate this game to be at a higher level. And they could do that. It could make it a better value. But as always, and this people have a little bit of trouble understanding this, I can't review modes that might come one day. The version of this game we may get eventually, even if they do add.
So basically, what you're admitting to is that this entire video is pointless, right? Oh man, I'm tired of the game, but they're releasing new content already. Oh, but they haven't released it. They've already confirmed that golf is coming. Like, you're not reviewing the full product. Your channel is worthless. You are not able to evaluate the product in a fair manner. You're not able to discuss any of these games with any real without pushing an agenda, and still somehow you have the nerve to attack people who are calling you out on this. Like, your channel has no value. It offers no insight into whether or not this is a good game. Like, in fact, I don't even think this video title is even accurate, because, like, you admit the game is fun. You admit you've had a good time with it, but oh man, I'm tired of it already. Like, you're just coping because you have nothing real to complain about.
Stuff, what if it sucks? This is something I often touch on, whether it be a game like this with little content, a game that's buggy at release. I can't assume it's going to be fixed down the line. I've got to review what I have here, and what I have here is not very much. And honestly, while the obvious comparisons to make with this game is to the other Nintendo Sports titles, the Wii Sports games, I think this lackluster release has an even bigger issue. This year, 2022, is absolutely jam-packed with big releases for Switch. We had Pokemon Legends Arceus at the beginning of the year, Kirby just recently dropped, Splatoon 3, Xenoblade 3, Bayonetta 3 coming, more Pokemon, Scarlet and Violet. In terms of other sports games, we've got Mario Strikers coming. I guarantee I'm going to like that game a million times more than this. In fact, a lot of people have been talking about how it feels like they haven't been promoting Mario Strikers enough. I mean, I think that's pretty much like
That's just typical
the next
Pretendo
big
bitching about
Nintendo
nothing.
release. But it seems like they've been focusing more on the Xenoblade Splatoons in that lately. And my view on that is that they didn't want to put too much focus on Mario Strikers with this game still set to release. I mean, if you're looking at gameplay of this game and then over at gameplay at Mario Strikers, it's like, hey, if I want a sports game, I'm probably going to hold off and wait for Mario Strikers. So I think that's the reason for the decision. I think Mario Strikers, regardless, they'll probably start ramping it up now that Nintendo Switch Sports is released, but I think, and I'm sure they think, that game's going to sell well, perform well, regardless. So let's, not put it too much in the forefront while we're still trying to sell people on Nintendo Switch Sports. At least that's my thoughts on it. But yeah, there are so many what will surely be better games coming out this year that it's next to impossible for me to recommend people run out and buy this game with so many more better titles dropping around it. And yes,
Bro, there's nothing coming out in May, right? Like, Switch Sports is the last game to have come out, like, for Nintendo Switch recently, right? And we're not going to get anything new until Mario Strikers in June, right? Like, June is jam packed. There's a lot of stuff coming out in June, but like for May, there's not a whole lot to play. So yeah, I'll be playing a lot of Nintendo Switch Sports. I've beaten all those big games already. Like, I'm not super anxious to. I'm not like go. I don't know. It's just
this game is cheaper. It's not a full price game, but $40 still isn't that cheap. I mean, for the standard version of the game, that $40 could go towards one of these other games and you're 2/3 of the way there. Another $20 to have Mario Strikers instead? Yes, please. I mean, luckily for this game, the other Wii Sports titles aren't on Nintendo Switch. That's like the best thing it has going for it. So I guess if you absolutely need something like that, maybe you have to scratch that nostalgia itch for these games. Perhaps you have people coming over, an event coming up, and you want a game that everyone can gather around and goof around with. This title will work for you. But yeah, I also think if any Nintendo game is going to get discounted not too long from now, granted that's rare, Nintendo doesn't frequently discount their games, but if something is going to get discounted, I think it's going to be something like this. So if you can wait, that's at least what I would do. Because if this game was a bit lower, I know it's 40, but I mean, I'd price this more around the 25 to 30 buck range. If it was in there,
Cares about
maybe
the
I wouldn't be
price?
as
What are
harsh
you,
on it
poor?
being so bare bones. But 40 is too steep for me. And again, maybe they will beef it up down the line, but by that point, if anything, you'll be able to get it cheaper. It's not like this game's going to go up in price in the next few months, year, whatever. But for now, what you're getting
Unless
for
they release
40
paid
bucks
DLC.
in
Come
this
on,
year of
genius.
killers, I really can't say anything nicer than that. Like, wait for a discount and see if they actually add some fun content. Hopefully offline fun content. Anyway, with that, this video's a wrap. Let me know your thoughts on Nintendo Switch Sports in the
Fucking
comments. Are you
Spurg.
currently playing the
What,
game?
what a fucking Spurg. Like, oh man, they just don't have enough content. It's an online multiplayer sports game, right? It has a ranking system. Like, what more do you need, really? Fucking really. I'm gonna play Nintendo Switch Sports right now just to spite this motherfucker. This video was a complete joke.